The worst bass fishing lure ever invented of all time is the Alabama rig. Guys, this thing absolutely sucks. And I want to talk to you, not because it doesn't catch fish, because it catches fish. I want to tell you guys why, in my opinion, this is the worst lure ever to come along. Okay, now let me give you a little backstory to this thing. I always like to preface it a little bit because I've got a lot of history into the sport. I fished that. It was the FLW, I can't remember, FLW, they called it an invitational or something back about 20 years ago. Paul Elias won the tournament at Lake Gunnersville on the Alabama rig before anyone knew what an Alabama rig was. And what happened was nobody had heard of this. It's like Paul blew this tournament away fishing the bridge piers with an Alabama rig. And when I remember when it came out, I said, what the heck's an Alabama rig? I'd never even heard of it. And I was rooming with Aaron Martins, and Aaron knew about it. He goes, this is a striper rig. They've been catching fish with striped bass with this thing. They didn't call it an Alabama rig. I can't remember what Aaron called it, but the profile of this multi lure had been catching stripers for a long time. But the backstory to that is about 3 months before that tournament, I was at a sports show, I think in Tennessee somewhere. And this guy came up to me and showed me this bait, and he invented it. I can't even remember his name at the time, or he had one of them. And he goes, hey, Randy, check this thing out, man. I want to, show you my new bait here. And I looked at this thing, and there's no way a bass had ever hit that. I didn't want to be rude. I said, man, that's pretty cool. That's a cool looking bait. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, there's no bass. What kind of bass is going to hit something like this coming through the water? And Paul, I guess, was at the same show, and Paul got a couple of them from this guy and wound up winning the tournament. So that's a little backstory, but let me explain to you guys why this is the worst bait of all time. Bass fishing, it's not about how many fish you catch. I'm a firm believer of the old saying, it's not if you win or lose, it's how you play the game. And in bass fishing, that's especially true. That's why I'm so anti-tech and anti-certain things in fishing, is because I think bass fishing needs to be played in a certain way. I think the sport inherently, sort of like trout fishing a little bit, there's some ethics and integrity behind the sport of bass fishing that has parameters that you need to fall within. And those parameters lie within fair chase, fishing a sporting manner, respecting the fish, all that type of stuff. And when you have a lure like the Alabama rig, in my opinion, this is not fair chase. This is something that's an insult to the fish, because you've got freaking 5 or 6 or whatever lures on this thing trying to